Hello everyone, my name is Roya and today I'm going to tell you all about the books that I've read in the first half of January. So I do have a couple of DNFs to tell you guys about first. So firstly, the first DNF that I had this month was Crowning Soul by Sahira Javaid. This is a book I had been really looking forward to reading and I was really expecting to love it, but I really didn't. Mainly the reasons why I didn't like it were pretty much like the lack of editing and proofreading and such. I mean, this is an indie book, so I typically do not hold indie books to the same standards as like a trad pub book. However, this book was just so bogged down with like stuff that was found out really conveniently, or like just stuff where that like doesn't matter and stuff like that, where I just got so bored reading it. And there were a lot of like a lot of things where like someone refers to someone by a different name and goes, oh, that's his other name, and it's like, and then it never comes up again, and I'm like, really? And so I did read more than half of this book, so I did mark it as read on Goodreads, but I didn't give it a rating, because unless I DNF a book because it's totally a 1-star read, I'm not gonna give a rating to it if I didn't finish it. But if it were like a terrible book that was totally gonna get 1 star, and that would have been the case even if I finished it, I would have like given it a 1 star. But since I just really didn't like this book just because it was not for me in the way that I thought it was going to be, and I was just really, really bored. I didn't see any reason to give this book a rating or anything, like, so I just marked it as read. But anyway, like, I did think that this book had a lot of potential. It was mostly just, like, it's literally 500 pages of mostly just stuff that has nothing to do with the story, or just like details that it gets really bogged down in and just really weighs down the story. And I just found myself feeling like this was just such a drag to read, and it was just a not a good reading experience, and I'm really sad. The other DNF that I had this month is The Night and the Rose. I ended up only reading about 50 pages of this. I didn't even mark it on Goodreads. I mean, the reason that I DNF'd it was mainly because, I mean, first of all, it was pretty boring to begin with, but then as the story went on, once it actually got to the part where the two main characters meet for the first time under the pretense of like one of them pretending to be an outlaw to like save the other one from something and blah blah blah. There was a lot of like comments in the male main character's like internal monologue about the female main character's boobs and stuff, and it's like they literally just met and he's pretending to be an outlaw so he can like save her from something. He's already like just thinking about her boobs, like, oh no, her boob brushed against him and all that stuff. And it was just really like, it's just the way that it's described just feels so misogynistic and like so sexist and stupid for something that for a character who does not seem like a bad person at all. Like, he's really portrayed to be like a really good guy and everything, and so for that to like happen that way was just so annoying, and I was like, is the whole friggin' book gonna be like this? So on to the books that I actually finished this month. Firstly, we have Sisters of the Vast Black by Lena Rather. This is about basically a bunch of space nuns in a living ship. And there is one of them does fall in love with another lady who's really badass. But anyway, so this book is really short, so there isn't as much to it as I like, as you would necessarily think. I mean, it is a series though, so probably the first one's really just setting up the plot for the rest of it. But anyway, so I did think this book was really clever and interesting. There just wasn't a ton to it, but I really liked it. Another nice, short and sweet book that I read this month was Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee. This actually is not out yet. It comes out on April 11th, and this was an e-arc from NetGalley, so thank you very much to NetGalley for approving me for this one. But basically it's about a girl who flies a rock you know, gigantic bird rock, who, for the purpose of basically hunting manticores, because manticores like eat people and kill people and all this other stuff. And it was such an interesting story and a really good setting and all of that. It was so weird. I really like how well researched it was and all of that. I mean, it's being that it's a Persian inspired setting, and I'm Persian. I like to see that, you know, the author clearly knew her stuff while writing this, and the manticores are described so creepily. It's like great. Like, of course it's Fonda Lee, she's a great writer, but like but still I was really impressed. But overall I felt like since this book was really short, there wasn't as much like character depth, and there really could have been some more like world building in there. Like I kind of wanted more from it, but ultimately it was a really good story. And then finally I read The Queen's Rising and The Queen's Resistance by Rebecca Ross. Rebecca Ross is the author of whatever it's called, A River Enchanted, which I just read a couple months ago, which was an amazing book. And even though this series is YA and that series is not, they are very similar in how well thought out they were, and aspects of the world building were very similar as well. Like, it's so interesting how they're both kind of like Scottish or Northern European inspired fantasy books, but this one definitely had a lot more of a magical element, but also not really. And it did have a lot of like really clever things with the world building that I thought was really good. And so basically this is about so basically The Queen's Rising is about a girl who is actually half the people she's from and half a different people, but she never knew who her father was, and no one will tell her, and her mother has passed away a long time ago, so she's sure not getting any answers from her either. And then she basically goes into a kind of an orphanage type of thing where they train people on like some particular art form. And it takes her like forever to figure out which art form is really for her, because she's just kind of like failing at each one. And then she finishes all of that and gets adopted per se by basically someone who was like old nobility from the previous ruler, all of that. So she has to go and do some political intrigue stuff, basically, and it's just a total coincidence that she does find out like that her bio father is involved in all that too, and he's a douchebag. But basically, yeah, so it's definitely a really good book, a really good series. I do think that it was so well thought out, so well researched. Like I said, Rebecca Ross definitely knows her stuff. So anyway, those are the books that I read in the first half of January. So this was a pretty good combination of books to start the year off with, even though I did DNF a couple of books this month. But for the most part, the books that I did finish were really, really good. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these, have any thoughts on them, and I will see you very soon with a new video. Bye!